to just, I'm trying to live my life, waking up in the morning, it's like, I'm trying hard not to like this person. Like, you want to hate that person so bad. You're trying to, like, purposely hate somebody. That's some terrible energy, man. I'm not with that.
There are certain individuals online who spend a bulk of energy just coming at us, and I'm like, that takes a lot. Like, who has time for that? I just want to squeeze a game of NCAA in while my kid's jumping around in his jumpy before my wife gets home to pretend like I cleaned the house. You know? My favorite is like the garage door will start to open up and I'm like, boom, I fire the controller. I start pretending to fold stuff. I've just been folding clothes for the last 3 hours. I've had like 4 Dynasty games going on.
Well, I can see Anna walking in.
Yeah. I don't know,
or no, I get the Tesla notification when she gets out the car. Oh, she's home. Okay.
See, Danny, Michelle's Uncle Danny was talking about the Tesla notifications and how he knows where they're at all times.
Oh,
car is going 71 miles per hour northbound on 101.
Oh, I can see when Anna's like, okay, all right, she's leaving now. She's 15 minutes away. Let me hurry up and do this, do that. Oh, wait, she's 5 minutes away. Let me just press the red button on the Samsung TV and just turn the game off.
Just turn it off.
How much iPad does Chesna have? She's been on your iPad for 90 minutes. I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, we just got on it. We were reading some books and doing all this and that. Blah, blah, blah,
we were reading.
She left it on. Yeah, she wasn't actually watching. She just left it on.
We were reading some books.
Yeah, she's done really well today, man. We done this, we done that. It's lying through my teeth. All right, let's get our boy.
Now the little guy, he's 8 months. He has the controller in his hand. Now I have to give him the fake controller, the one that's not connected.
Oh, yeah. I used to do that.
He holds it.
I used to do that with my little brother, too.
I used to do that with baby Chaz, and then she figured out, I was like, Papa, this is not working. Oh, damn, that bit is over.
My brother never figured that one out.
It lasted for about 5 months.
He is reaching for everything.
Yeah, it's. I know what stage you're at. Hey, we always do this around Stats Guerrera. We always just randomly talk, and he's sitting down there on hold, and he does us a solid by joining us here at 12:30. New hours, Rob. I know it's new hours. Rob Stats Guerrera joins us. Stats on Fire Guerrera joins us on the River Islands guest line. All guests on 95.7 Game appear on the River Islands guest line. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands, River Islands, and Latham? Before we get to Brandon Aiyuk to the 49ers, as the rookies are reported, and Ricky Pearsall, all this nonsense. I know you're a big baseball fan, big Mariners fan. What did you think of the All-Star game yesterday? Because I thought it was boring. I thought the broadcast, it gave me golf vibes. What was your overall take on everything that happened with the All-Star game and the home run derby, Rob?
They got to go back to the regular jerseys. Get rid of these stupid All-Star game jerseys. The coolest part of the All-Star game was seeing everybody wearing their different team jerseys together on the field. Now they got these dopey All-Star jerseys. They got to get rid of it.
I'm with you. All right. Brandon Aiyuk. Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel. First of all, I'll just get your thoughts on this. And I'm not a big list guy, top 10 receivers, top 10 quarterbacks, blah, blah, blah. But top 10 wide receivers per NFL executives, coaches, and scouts. They have Brandon Aiyuk at number 10 and Deebo Samuel honorable mention. What's your thoughts on that, Rob?
If you want to grade Deebo purely as a wide receiver, I think that's fair. He does other stuff, though, which helps, boost his value. So if you're talking pure receiving skill, that makes sense. If you're talking football player, he's got to be higher on any list you come up with.
Did you watch the receiver doc?
I watched every episode.
I thought both guys came off, and their families came off really lovable. And if anything, I think it made me appreciate both players even more because the way this season went and the ending, it left a lot of sour taste in everybody's mouth. And we'll never get over the Super Bowl loss. But there's just something about, like, both these guys are all-time Niners, Kittle and Deebo. And it was nice to kind of, like, get that remembering.
I don't know. You think Deebo Samuel's an all-time
I think 2021 is one of the greatest individual seasons outside of a Roger Craig season, a Frank Gore season. Here and there. It is one of the greatest individual seasons, yes, in the last 30 years. It's not even close.
I agree with you, but that's just 1 year. Can you be an all-time Niner based on 1 year?
I mean, when you beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau, the MVP of the league, without scoring an offensive touchdown, and you're the one dragging the team across the finish line multiple times, yes. And then after seeing the doc and seeing how bad of a football player Jimmy Garoppolo was, yeah, I'm elevating Deebo Samuel. Also, his playoff game against Seattle. I mean, he's got signature playoff games. The Dallas game preceding the Green Bay game, the second half against Seattle, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, he's an all-time. The Detroit NFC Championship game, I do believe he's an all-time 49er, yes.
I'm not willing to go with you on that one, but
Why
That's
not?
fine.
You explain.
Yeah,
That's fair. I like to disagree. I mean, I think he's on the trajectory of being an all-time Niner and what he means in a run game. I mean, he's got 38 touchdowns in his career, 19 receiving, 19 rushing. But I want to know why you don't feel like why he's not an all-time Niner.
Look, if we were talking about the Panthers or, the Jaguars, maybe he'd make the list. This 49ers organization's got some history to it, okay? If you're going to be an all-time 49er, I got to have more than one incredible year. And I agree. It was one of the greatest single seasons in the history of the league. The rest of his seasons, kind of forgettable, Like Garrison Hurst made a lot of cool plays, too. Is he an all-time 49er? I don't think so. Not yet, anyway, for me, for Deebo.
Interesting. I'm looking at him last year, over 1,000 all-purpose yards. I don't scoff at that. But you look at if he's just purely a wide receiver, Deebo only has 4,122 receiving yards over the course of his career. Brandon Aiyuk, I believe, has over 3,000 in the last 2 years alone. So as a pure wide receiver, but we know he's more than that. He's meant more than that to this 49ers offense here. Brandon Aiyuk, how much does he mean to this offense of Kyle Shanahan?
He's very, very valuable. I mean, when you look at when the Niners need a big play, especially against man coverage, Brandon Aiyuk is their best option. And what he did last year, almost 18 yards per reception. He squeezed all the juice out of every single opportunity he had with the 49ers. It was an incredible season. He made some huge catches, some huge third down catches in playoff games for this team. He was absolutely vital to their success last year.
I'm stuck on this Deebo thing because I'm not. This is now an interesting. No, I'm serious. This is an interesting conversation because how people view things are totally different, right? Like, Freddie Solomon gets lost in the history and in the annals of history when it comes to the 49ers because he played on some crummy teams and then he ended up winning the Super Bowl. And obviously Dwight Clark has been elevated. Jerry Rice, like John Taylor, he had a 4 or 5 year run. Like if you really break it down, it was a great years, some great years, like a 4 or 5 year run. Navarro Bowman had basically 2 years of excellence, and then his leg blew off. Deebo Samuel has been amazing. I would put Deebo Samuel, his singular season, right up next to Navarro Bowman's 2013. I do think he's an all-time. I'm really surprised that you don't think he's already in that pantheon. I don't think you're alone on that, by the way.
John Taylor played in the late 80s and early and mid-90s. And he still has more 1,000-yard receiving seasons than Deebo Samuel. And that's when passing yardage receiving yardage was way harder to get. Deebo has been really good for 1 year, and he definitely has a handful of plays and games where he's been impactful. But he also has a lot of games like the Packers game in the playoffs this year, where he gets hurt early and he is gone. And the Super Bowl this year, where he gets hurt and he's not, the same player that he was. He's got a lot of games where he disappears also. And we're talking all-time 49ers. Deebo Samuel is not on my list yet.
Is Brent Jones?
Well, I would think with Brent Jones, he's probably, before George Kittle, he was the best tight end in the history of the organization. But I think Kittle is past him now, so I'll say no.
Yeah, I'm taking Vernon Davis over Brent Jones all day. But I hear you. We can go down this road, but it's just we'll do this off air. Yeah. I just found it interesting how dismissive you are of Deebo.
Well, I will say this though, Shasky. There's a lot of people.
I know a lot of people.
I believe, me personally, I believe Deebo's because I think we underrate Deebo Samuel's.
That's what I'm saying.
His rookie season, over 800 yards receiving, and you remember that team with Jimmy Garoppolo. You brought up Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019, and I've been fighting this fight for a long time, and people just say, "Oh, you're an idiot. Jimmy Garoppolo was not good at all." He would have had the single-season passing yardage record for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019, but he sat out like 4 fourth quarters. Mm-hmm. They're blowing teams out left and right. And Deebo Samuel, as a rookie, started to come along for the 49ers. He had 800 receiving yards on a team that was a run-first offense, Rob. We underrate his rookie year, Deebo Samuel, that is.
That's fair, and if you want, great. So now you're giving Deebo 2 really good years. What happened to the rest of them?
Last year was pretty damn good for Deebo. 12 touchdowns. Hat trick against Philly. Big game against Seattle.
Okay. What about the other games? Again,
Detroit?
If I don't know the Deebo Samuel I'm going to get when the game starts, which guy is showing up? In a contract year, he's great. What are we hearing this year? Oh, he looks awesome, right? He's going all the optional stuff. He's slimmed down. He's working on his route running. Some would say 6 months too late. But anyway, I got to know which guy I'm getting, right. And I don't know which Deebo we're getting.
Well, Deebo does create a lot of gravity or whatnot, and he does make defenses stink a little bit because you get the ball in his hands and he can make a lot of plays. But Brandon Aiyuk here, the importance of Brandon Aiyuk in this offense.
Yeah.
Can the 49ers, last year they had an all-time year, 4 guys over 1,000 all-purpose yards. Brandon Aiyuk, career season, one of the best receivers, second team all-pro. Can they, if they said, you know what, we're going to call Brandon Aiyuk's bluff. We're going to go into week 1 against the New York Jets without Brandon Aiyuk. We're going to play football without Aiyuk. Can this offense function at the same level they did a season ago without Brandon Aiyuk? Where is his importance? Could you rank his importance in this 49ers offense?
Well, I think the 49ers think that they could operate at a pretty similar level. I think if you gave Kyle Shanahan truth serum, I think he put Christian McCaffrey at the top of the list as the guys he needs to operate the offense at a high level. Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, certainly Nick Bosa's up there when you talk about the team. I think he likes Aiyuk, but I also think I think Kyle thinks he can replace Aiyuk if necessary. Not that he wants to, but I think he can if necessary. I think that's part of the reason why they drafted Ricky Pearsall. I think Kyle would have Aiyuk at least third, maybe fourth on the list offensively. I think he would go McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo, and then Aiyuk.
What is Aiyuk? What do you think he deserves in a contract? Does he deserve Amon-Ra St. Brown money? Does he deserve Jalen Waddle money, Devontae Smith? And then, if you want to add to it, how do you believe Aiyuk has handled the situation all offseason?
The market is what the market is, and the market says $28 to $30 million is right where Brandon Aiyuk should fall, and I absolutely think that he deserves that money. He is certainly at the level of those other guys that you mentioned without question. So that's where I would put him. As to how Brandon Aiyuk has handled it, I think the 49ers have kind of run circles around him from a fan perspective, because the feedback I get when I do live shows on the YouTube page or podcasts, people are turning on Brandon Aiyuk.
Oh,
they really are.
They are.
He's greedy. He's this. He's that. He should just take the deal. They offered him $26 million. Why is he arguing over a couple $1 million? Why is he doing the Pivot podcast? Everything he has done to try and get support, I think, has worked against him, unfortunately. And it stinks because Brandon Aiyuk's not doing anything wrong. He deserves as much money as he could get. And the 49ers aren't doing anything wrong by using all the tools in their toolbox. This is just how the sausage gets made.
It does. I would say that I think that he's done a little too much in terms, because how it's perceived by the public and the fans is a part of this. Like CMC quietly negotiating because he has more leverage behind closed doors, getting an extension and that being announced and no hassle, no drama, no nothing. And then you contrast that with what's going on where you're posting Commander practice footage and doing Instagram lives. And he's deliberately doing some of these things. At minimum, it's a bad look. I do think it's been a bad look from Brandon Aiyuk. There's a way he could go about this, but maybe it just speaks to how little leverage he has.
Well, think about it this way, and he kind of mentioned this when he was on the Pivot. When you talk about the 49ers, it was always Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa. It was
Shanahan.
Never Brandon Aiyuk. Shanahan, exactly. And he mentioned on the Pivot, like, now when you talk about the 49ers, you're talking about me. It's my name in the news. It's my name that's on everybody's lips that everybody's talking about. And he said he liked it. He enjoyed it. And I don't blame him for that, because he's a really good player and he has been a critical part of this team's success. He just never got the love. He never got mentioned because there were too many other names on the list. So I understand from his perspective if he's like, hey, now it's my time and let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk.
Interesting there. Well, how does Brandon Aiyuk look in another offense? Is it the Shanahan factor? Because you know what I do hate, Robin? We're talking to Rav Stotts on Fire Guerrera. We love him. Go Center Network. Follow him. He covers the Niners inside and out. He's here on the River Islands guest line. One thing that grinds my gears, Rob, is when people say, well, Shanahan schemes him open. What coach doesn't try to scheme their players open? That's the name of the game. You run a scheme. You try to get your players open, give them the opportunity to thrive. That's the name of the game. But what would Aiyuk look like in another system? Is he a guy who can say, no matter what, if I go to Pittsburgh, Washington, Miami, no matter what, is he a top 10 wide receiver if he's not on the 49ers?
Yes, I think he does it differently. You know, we act like Brock Purdy's the only one that gets a boost from Kyle Shanahan. They all get a boost from Kyle Shanahan, and they all get a boost from one another. So I think if Aiyuk were on another team, what you would see is he might put up similar or better numbers, but he'd need a lot more targets and a lot more catches to do it. I think what Shanahan does is he's able to make it more efficient to where he doesn't need 130 targets to gain 1,300 yards. I think that's the Shanahan difference.
How's this going to end up? Are they moving him? Is he staying? Is he going to hold out? Like what do you think is going to happen? Because we're all guessing.
I don't think he's going to get traded ultimately. I think what's going to happen is the 49ers are going to make him play it out on the fifth-year option, and we are going to get, for the first time in the Shanahan era, a situation where maybe not everybody's pulling in the same direction on offense. Aiyuk's going to want his targets. Deebo is going to want his targets, and that is going to put a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Brock Purdy, who is going to have to be the peacemaker. He's going to have to be the one to step up in the huddle and say, shut up about your targets. Shut up if you're open. I'm throwing to who I want. And then here's the next play. And I think Brock is going to have to step up and do that this year in a way that he hasn't had to do that in years past.
Wow. Where does Ricky Pearsall factor into all this?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's sort of the backup plan, right? He's kind of the Niners parachute in a way, I think, regardless of what happens with Aiyuk or Deebo. But we think that both of those guys are not going to be on the team next year. And Pearsall is supposed to be the guy, the prince that was promised, waiting in the wings here. So we'll see if he can step up this year and maybe take some targets away from Juwan Jennings. I think that'll bode well for his future. But things are far from settled at wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm very intrigued with Ricky Pearsall. We've had him on the show. I know you broke down a ton of film with him. Is he ready to step in day one and be a guy opposite of Deebo and become one of Brock Purdy's trusted targets? Is he ready for that?
I don't think he's ready for it right now. There's a lot that goes into it. You got to learn not only the complicated Shanahan system, you have to block your ass off for the 49ers as well, and you have to somehow take targets away from a guy in Juwan Jennings that has a ton of equity with this team. The big plays he's made, the big playoff moments. Obviously, we saw what he did in the Super Bowl. So I think for Pearsall, he'll contribute here and there, but I think really what the Niners are grooming him for is 2025.
Interesting stuff there. Rob, Stats on Fire. Guerrera, really going to be at that training camp next week?
I am not going to be at training camp, but I will have two other people from my network that will be boots on the ground in training camp.
All right, Make sure they come say hi to us. We'll be there for the first 2 days. We'll come say what's up to you guys and show some love to you guys at the Gold Standard Podcast Network. You guys do a hell of a job. Thanks so much for the time, Rob.
Anytime. Thank you.
Anytime. Rob, Stats on Fire, Guerrera. Now, he said a lot about Aiyuk, said a lot about Ricky Pearsall, but one thing that is hitting me right now,